Deliverability factors. So you might wonder, okay, so Yahoo's the hardest to get through. Google's getting just as bad. Now they've just shoved all the marketers into a tab, so we can just play in our sandbox and feel good about it, you know, and hope people used it as a sandbox only. But anyway, the point is that now there's all these complicated ways to get to the inbox, and these factors will allow you to reach the inbox every single time as long as you've got all these things figured out. And so if you play by all the rules, you know, you'll reach the inbox. But the problem is, how many people actually know what the rules are, right? So, I mean, over the years, we've stumbled and hit a few enough, and I happen to have somebody on hand who's really good at email. So I've learned a lot of these things, and now I feel like one of these little ninjas that's got all these strategies that nobody else knows. And so today I get to share those with you. So first one is responding to unsubscribes. There's a lot of systems, and actually by law in the United States, you only have to remove them in 10 days. Lots of people think that 10-day window is the perfect opportunity to send every single ClickBank offer in 1 day, or 10 days. But anyway, the point is that responding to unsubscribes quickly obviously helps your deliverability, because you keep those people who keep complaining and you kick them off. Your email confirmation strategy and whether you actually have one or not. Do you let people on the list automatically, or do they have to confirm their email address? Removing and suppressing the unengaged. So if somebody, what do they call it? If somebody hasn't opened or clicked on anything in a year, obviously they don't have any interest in what you're sending. They need to go. And so that's what that means, removing or suppressing the unengaged. At the end of the day, you don't need anybody who's not interested in what you're sending. There's no benefit to either side. So hard bounces. That means user not found. That means the email address doesn't exist. There's a number of reasons those get in there, but the bottom line is you want those off your list, because it looks bad to senders when you keep sending the email addresses that don't exist. Because who knows, maybe you just made up a whole bunch and went, you know, Bill Gates at Microsoft.com, you know, and we're hoping that you'd reach the inbox, and, you know. So anyway, removing soft bounces. And soft bounces, you know, can be pretty common, but after they happen a whole bunch of times, you know, maybe that person's never going to go in and delete all their emails. You know, that's an error that the email address exists, but for whatever reason, it's not taking mail right now. Could be that it's full, could be a number of things, but soft bounces, after a while, they should be removed. So engagement monitoring, that's a lot of basically the same thing in terms of watching what people click, subscribe, open. DCAM and SPF. There are two things that are very technical sounding, and believe me, I've had to research them 2 or 3 times just to even remember what they are. But even if you're not using a custom email server, MailChimp and Aweber and even Gmail, Google Mail, supports these things. And what it means is DCAM stands for domain keys. And so you ever seen where people forge somebody else's email address and it looks like it came from them, but it's not really from them? When you look at it in grave detail, like in little pieces, it says something.china.cn or something. That isn't possible when you use domain keys. So domain keys, when you do a view source on the header information, and I know that's really nerdy, but in there you can shove in this little chunk of encrypted code, and that little encrypted code will say, yes, this is from that guy, because it can check the domain record and say, yes, this email really did come from that domain. The other thing is Sender Policy Framework, or SPF. It actually has another record that says which IP address is this supposed to come from. If it comes from any other IP address, it's not from him. And so when Yahoo or Gmail or Hotmail or Outlook.com can check and say, yes, these are 2 ways I can make sure this email came from that guy, well, who's going to really use that, right? First of all, it takes 30 seconds to set up. You can do a bit of Googling and you'll find it pretty quick. It's not that hard to figure out, especially if you have access to your cPanel or access to GoDaddy.com, and you can read the help docs on Gmail or read the help docs on MailChimp or something like that. But who's going to do that? I'll tell you who's not going to do it. Spammers aren't going to do these things, because it's just one extra step. It's they're in there to make some profits and get out. So when you set up these things, you look really legit and you're guaranteed to hit the inbox. When you do all of these things that I'm going to go over, you become so legit that it's going to be pretty rare for somebody that's gone through all those efforts to make sure that they're only mailing people who want what they have, high open rates, really love this stuff. Surveyed, they never ever click the spam button. They've got the domain records all set up right so that the email's guaranteed from them. Who else is going to do that stuff but somebody who really cares about their customers and wants to make sure they hit the inbox? So, also careful wording selection. I mean, we know that if you put penis, penis, penis in an email, it probably won't get through, which is a good thing. Because you were drinking too much. No. Anyway, so the point is that careful wording selection, equal image to text. One of the things is if you send just an image, via email, it doesn't work. Also, if you're monitoring abuse at and postmaster at, sometimes, somebody like Microsoft will actually have one of their direct email coordinators contact you and say, did you really send this? Or, I'm having an issue with the email that you last sent. Sometimes postmasters will try and work with you rather than deny your mail. If you're not reading those email addresses, you won't know. So even if you do send all of your email through MailChimp or all of your email through another system, you should still set up those forwarder emails on your domain, in your GoDaddy or wherever you host your domain stuff, just to make sure that you see something if it does come through. So it's not that hard. Again, a bit of a Googling if you know how to set up an email account on your own domain. And if you don't, I mean, these kind of things take 15 seconds. You can hire somebody, for, what is it, $25, $35 to do that. And that one time will mean that your emails always get through. So anyway, volume and consistency. If you're the type of person who has, like, say, a 2,500 person list, I heard like 6 or 7 people have a list about that size. And all of a sudden, for some reason, this week, you've always sent your weekly newsletter or your monthly newsletter, and this week you've decided to send it 3 times. And now you've sent 9,600 emails instead of your usual 2,500. And all of a sudden you show up on the radar as, hey, something's different here. Those kind of things can have an impact on your deliverability. Yahoo might all of a sudden go, oh, hey, that's a lot of email, for 1 week. But if you're consistently mailing the same amount of things and the same kinds of things, it becomes pretty common to even get through the inbox with weight loss offers if you're always sending the same kind of things in the same rough volume. But sometimes you'll get squelched if all of a sudden you grow too quickly or do something too quickly. So if you have a list of, say, 2,500 in size, and you all of a sudden gain another 1,000 subscribers, like, there's things you can do, obviously, to manage that out. But obviously there's a CAN Spam Act law as well, which means you have to have an unsubscribe button. You have to actually be sending something to somebody that they actually want the emails. And they also have laws that say you can't do trick things as well. Like, say here's a picture of a horse and there's no horse in the email. That's a bad example, but, the actual thing is like stuff like, if you say there's something free, or if you say, a certain price or whatever, you can't trick people. It's actually in the CAN Spam Act. And the Canadian laws, they sound like they've gotten harsher, but I don't really think they are, because, I mean, to have a commercial relationship with somebody, it could be as commercial as I met that guy at fill-in-the-blank event. The bottom line is the only people who are going to get in trouble with that kind of stuff are the people who are blatantly spamming people, who bought a list, which you should really never do. Because you can't nurture a list you bought, right? You can't build a relationship with somebody, with a list that you just bought. I mean, what's that first email going to be? You're going to have a huge unsubscribe rate. You're going to have a huge pile of people click the spam button. And every single time that spam button gets clicked, there's a huge population of people on AOL that think that when you push that button, it just goes in the junk or in the garbage. But the truth is that it doesn't. It actually notifies the ISP, who then notifies the sender, whoever that is, if it's MailChimp or if it's SendGrid or if it's your own, IP address. They notify that, that somebody did that, and that these are complaints. And if you get too many complaints, like I said with the 3% on Aweber, well, whoever is currently supplying your deliverability, may drop you. But you know what? Even if that wasn't there, I mean, we should always obviously strive not to piss people off, because it doesn't really serve to build business, community, relationship, and it just doesn't make any money. So, yeah.